the usual disclaimer. This webinar will be recorded, so if you don't want to be recorded, you can still attend the seminar through the Facebook page. Having said this, very happy to have today with us two scholars from the University of Roma Tre, Keti Lelo and Salvatore Monni. Keti Lelo and Salvatore Monni are both economists, and they have done this collaborative research on inequalities, on urban inequalities, especially in Rome, but also with a comparative view on other Italian metro areas, such as, I think, Turin and Naples, most specifically. In economics, but I would say in wider social sciences and in public debates alike, there has been an eruption of interest over the last 5-6 years on the issue of inequality. I think the publication of the very influential book by Thomas Piketty, Capital in the 21st Century, made a decisive contribution to this renewed interest in social inequalities. Then the so-called populist eruption in 2016 with the election of Trump and the Brexit vote threw light also on the spatial inequality. So Piketty, in a way, threw light and the crisis of 2008, 2009 on the social inequalities, class inequalities, while the subsequent populist eruption threw light on the spatial and regional inequalities, which have been really significantly widening in Western countries, such as the United States, but also in West European countries over the last decades. So this is a very timely topic that attracts the interest of many researchers across the social sciences, including economists and sociologists and geographers. So it's studying and debating inequalities gives us an opportunity also to establish interdisciplinary connections, collaborations, and this is a very exciting opportunity. But it also gives us an opportunity to connect our research, our scholarship to social movements and political debates, public debates, in which there is growing awareness of this central role played by inequalities, not just at the social level, but also in shaping politics, and shaping politics at both the local and national scales. So thanks for those who are attending this seminar. The seminar would be, we have two hours ahead. The first hour would be dedicated to would be given to Keti Lelo and Salvatore Monni for their talk. And then we will have a short break. And after that, in the second hour, we will have a discussion. So you are warmly invited to contribute to the discussion, whether you are part of the GSSI or you are an external attendee. You are all welcome to pose questions, to make observations about this topic and about the seminar itself. So thanks, Keti and Salvatore. I give you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Grazie. First of all, let me thank you for the opportunity to present our work in a prestigious location such as GSSI. And here I have the opportunity to meet people that I have always known and with whom I share research interest and friendship. And the new friends and colleagues with whom I hope there will be soon the opportunity to get to know each other better. how could we really define our work, Mappa Roma? That's a question that I'm still asking myself, believe me, some way. Mappa Roma, Mappa Roma is a blog, is a blog animated by 3 colleagues, which are also friends, sharing this our research background in this project. I am a development economist who has worked for a long time with developing countries in the south of the world. And this background, I hope, emerge in our maps. For instance, in the application of the Human Development Index that we'll see soon. And Keti is an economic historian with both an urban and economic background, and she's an expert in GIS. And Federico is a public executive with training as a territorial economist. The project Mappa Roma started in February 2016, right before the last municipal election. At that time, the picture of the city emerging from the political debate and the bouncing into the mass media was, in our opinion, far from reality. We were all listening to tales about a city that no longer exists or that had never existed. Stereotyped stories that most often had nothing to do with reliable information. The idea behind the blog was to communicate to people some reliable information in one easy-to-read form, staying distant from any rhetoric about the city. We choose to communicate quantitative data about the city through thematic maps that allowed a quick visualization of phenomena and the possibility to be aware of spatial distributions. We use existing data. We don't produce data, but we use existing data from different official sources, and our analysis are based on this data, are made available through our website. We analyze data and distribution, aggregate in the 155 urbanistic zone urbanistiche, in which Rome is subdivided for statistical purpose. Rome, you know, is a large city and far too complex to be seen as an unicum, and even subdivided in 15 municipi, that are also rated large and therefore less significant from a socio-economic point of view. I try to change the slide. Okay, this is the 155 zone urbanistiche. The 155 urban areas have in averages 30,000 inhabitants per units and correspond more or less to the neighbors. This spatial level of disaggregation allows a more careful reading of distribution. In 2019, we published the book that in fact we are presenting today, with the first 26 maps presented at the time in the blog, updated and revised. The book and the blog are related. It is possible to download the data from the blog through the QR code on the book. The blog has now 31 maps. We are keep working as far as we are able to get data. In the last map are not in the book. You can find a map about reddito di cittadinanza, for example, and Airbnb. Oh, sorry. Okay. This is the first map that we present here. Is the number 12 in the book and also number 12 in the blog. It's a map about the Human Development Index. The Human Development Index is calculated for the 15 Roman municipalities In this map, unlike in the others, the analysis is done at the municipal level, given the possibility of having data at the level of the urban area. However, we wanted to present it for the important is as highlight social spatial inequalities. Usually, the Human Development Index is used to measure the difference in human development amongst world countries. The HDI is a synthetic indicator produced by UNDP since 1919 and captures 3 dimensions of development. Long and healthy life, the measurement is done with the average in life expectancy. Knowledge, the measurement is done with the literacy rate and the percent of the registration to primary and high school and university. Third one is decent standard of living. The measurement is done, in this case, with the per capita income and the calculation of the purchasing power in US dollars. In our index for Rome, we are approximate long and healthy life with average mortality rates, knowledge with average years of education, decent standard of living with average per capita income. The choice of indicator was made by taking into account the different ability to grasp the present dimension, the capacity vary over time and space. We can see from the map very different performance in the municipality. In the first and the second municipality, prima e secondo municipio in Italian, and in the 15, North Rome, the rich part of the Rome, the level of human development is above 0.8. Is similar to the level of the North European countries or Canada or United States. The municipality number 6 is Roma East, with a value lower than 0.4, is close to the levels of African countries of Southeast Asia. It is a strong difference amongst municipalities should be further explored by going deeper into the urban areas and looking at different spatial indicators. Now this is another map is about education and employment. When we think about the difference in the big city, most people think that above all the main difference are in terms of income and wealth. But it is not here that we can find the greatest difference in the metropolitan city, at least not today. Nowadays, the greatest difference are in terms of opportunity. In Rome, being born in a neighborhood rather than another means having more or less opportunity. But how could we measure opportunity? In Rome, Milan, Naples, we can do it, for example, through tertiary education. This is how we did in our work. We measure access to the tertiary education. If you would have been in a poor country, we would have probably done it through primary education, because the same dimension of development can require different indicators depending on the space and the time. Now let's take a look at the tertiary education in Rome, which is the situation. The share of graduate people on the total resident population is a part of our first map Roma. This is exactly our first map Roma in the book and the blog. This is perhaps the most dramatic map. It shows how in the few kilometers distance, this feature differs by 8 times. In the central neighborhoods, up to 42% of the population have a university degree, while in the peripheral neighborhoods, this feature may drop to 5%. In some particular and problematic areas characterized by the strong presence of social housing, case popolari, this feature can be less, around 2%, like San Basilio, for example. But the problem is not only Rome. The problem is not only Rome. We will speak also about Milan, Torino, and Naples. The problem is not only Rome, we can find difference in terms of opportunity and education also in much richer city. Milan is much richer than Rome. As regards the average of annual income per taxpayer, it is interesting to observe on the one hand how almost the entire territory of the metropolitan city of Milan has an income above 20,000 euro. And on the other hand, that Milan, with more than 13,000 euro, is not the richest municipality, being bypassed by 5 municipalities in the internet whose average income exceed 31 euros. These municipalities are Basilio, Cusago, Segrate, San Donato, and Arese. In the metropolitan city of Rome, the only 2 municipalities that slightly exceed 25,000 euro in average income are Formello and Grottoferrata. Okay. Located in the first belt, while Rome remained just below 25,000 euro, value probably flattened due to the variability within the extended municipality area. And most of the municipalities in the hinterland are in the range between 15 and 22,000 euro. The situation of the metropolitan city of Naples is very different, where, with the exception of Capri, San Sebastiano, Al Vesuvio, Procida, and Sorrento, the rest of the municipality do not exceed 20,000 euro of average income. Naples is slightly below 20,000 with 900,000 euro. And many municipalities have an average income per taxpayer of less than 50,000 euro. But yet, even in Milan, that is much richer than Rome, even in Milan, the difference between the center and the periphery are clear. Since graduates from Pagano and Magenta San Vittore, you can see in the map, both at 51.2% are 7 times from Quartorgiaro with 7.6%. The share of graduate residents exceed 42% through the center within the circle of the bastion, while it is less than 12% in many suburbs. In the hinterland, the values are lower as in the Roman case, since with an exception graduate never exceed 27%. In Naples, the differences are even more marked than in Rome and Milan, as the graduate in Posillipo, Chiaia, and Vovero, about 40%, a figure however lower the maximum value of the other 2 cities, are 9 times of Scampia, San Giovanni to the Duce and Milano. So in Rome, we have 7 times, in Naples, 9 times, but also in Milan, 7 times. Even in the interland, there are few graduates, at most 15–17% of the resident of population. This is the case of Nola and some eastern municipality and in Sorrento Peninsula, a percentage that is still lower than the ones recorded in the metropolitan city of Rome and Milan. In a large number of municipalities in the Neapolitan area, including 2 densely populated, in the north, the most populous is Afragola, and in the southeast, the graduates are less than 7%. If you look now at employment, we can see that in Rome, the employment rate of the population having more than 15 years old figure exceed 55% only in the new southeast peripheral area, including Malafede and Vallerano and Castel di Leva, and the east, including some municipality like Ponte di Nona and Casal Monastero, well, is just over 40% in the popular district of the historical suburb in the north and the east. as well as in Ostia. In the hinterland, the employment rate is lower. It is around 50-52%, only in few municipalities in the north of the Tiber Valley and in Monterotondo, and the southeast, especially in Pomezia, is industrial area Pomezia, and as well in Fiumicino and the coast, while is just over 40%, looking only at the most populous municipality and in the south coast. In Milan, the employment rate is on average higher than in Rome, since apart from three sparsely populated areas, it is between 15 and 60% in the historical center, in different neighborhoods close to the center, even in more peripheral neighbors in the north and the east. However, the rate remains below 45% in different suburbs, like Quartoggiaro another time. Also in the hinterland, there are several medium-sized municipalities whose employment rate is between 15 and 60%, therefore above the Roman value. In Naples, the employment rates are lower than those in the Roman area, and the difference between neighbors are much more marked, with the 43% employment rate in Posillipo, which is a debut compared to the low 22% in Scampia. The rate reached value around 40-43% average, close to the popular age of Rome, only in the Western district where the upper middle class lives. We talk in districts like Posillipo, San Giuseppe Chiaia, Vomero, and Arenella. And there is less than 30% in the populous northern suburb. In the eastern suburb, in the western suburb, as well as Mercato and Pendito in the center. Looking at the hinterland, the employment rate exceeds 40% only in the Iceland and in the Sorrento Peninsula. Now I can give the ground to Keti. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm just keeping this slide because I want to apologize. We have written unemployment because we also have the unemployment map, but the map that Salvatore just mentioned and commented was the employment map, not the unemployment. So we apologize for that. And then I will proceed with the presentation, just talking a little bit more about Rome in terms of urban shape and distribution of urban fabric. Because Rome is a very special city, at least for Italy. When we talk about Rome, we talk about a huge municipal territory, very large. It's comparable with the territory of the Greater London. But in Rome, we have only 1/3 of population if compared to the population of Greater London. It's 8.9 million, and we have around in Rome 2.9 million inhabitants. So Rome, it's a very rarefied city. And beyond the consolidated city, which is the historical city and what we call the historical periphery, which is the compact city, beyond this boundary, we have a very vast alluvial plain, which is covered by the sprawl. Rome is also the largest European agricultural municipality. We have almost 50% of the land, which is agricultural land. And these municipal borders, which you see here in black, are very similar. They almost coincide with the limit, the orange limit of the Agro Romano, which is an administrative unit inherited by the Papal State. The Agro Romano were the estates owned by the Papal aristocracy and the clergy before the proclamation of Rome capital of Italy. And we see Rome together with Fiumicino, which was part of Rome, but it became a municipality on its own only in 1991. So this huge territory, it has a lot of land, still a lot of land available for urbanization. And this is, just let's see some metrics. Here we compare size and form. And this is how the city grows. These are Landsat images. And Rome grows with a very low density in an inorganic process of expansion that it has always followed more real estate logics than the planning instruments. And this is a problem for Rome since its proclamation a capital of Italy. So sprawl produces urban diseconomies. These interstitial open spaces are no more productive agricultural land. They are areas which are not yet absorbed by urbanization. Of course, they produce pending revenues, but they grow fast. They grow fast, and central areas do not grow anymore. And this creates, of course, imbalances, not only in the spatial form, but also in the socioeconomic performances of the areas, which are very different. For example, here we see, well, we have other metrics here because we are measuring features. We are using spatial indicators here for the purpose of interpreting phenomena, spatial phenomena. In these two maps, we see on the left the population variation from 2001 to 2018. And we see how the central area, which is the consolidated city, it's the dense, the compact area that makes up the bulk of the Rome's urban fabric. Well, this area is diminishing in terms of resident population. We see these orange colors that are basically negative variations. And we see these bluish colors, which are positive variation. And this means that these areas around the Grande Raccordo Anulare and beyond, they keep growing their resident population. And if we see on the right to the composition of the families, then we can see how larger families are more representative of the peripheral areas. The color is blue, is stronger. And these are the areas where the young families and the young people tend to move. In the central areas, the single component families have a much higher share. And then this is also reflected in the fact that the bigger families have a lower share. And the same holds also for the age of the residents. So we find younger people more representative of the peripheral areas, and older people more representative of central areas. Here we have some services. We have two maps that analyze different services in terms of accessibility, which means the percentage of resident population with an access to kindergarten on the left and to the metro station on the right at a walking distance. So people that in 10 minutes walking distance can reach the kindergarten or the rail station. And we see a rather good accessibility for kindergartens, apart from some remote and almost inhabited peripheral areas. But we see a very large number of zone urbanistiche having no accessibility at all, or very poor accessibility to the rail public transportation. And this is especially true for those peripheral areas that are, which I was talking about earlier, so which are subject to continuous pressure, urbanization pressure, and growth on the residential population. Here we have the cultural offer, which is indeed very concentrated in the city center, in the historical center, we may say. And but this is somehow justified in a city such as Rome. And the map on the left, it's representing the accepted applications of basic income, the so-called reddito di cittadinanza, which was a measure recently introduced by the government. And here it's very clear the higher number of this type of income earners which are present in the periphery, and in particular in the eastern periphery, in the 6th municipio, which is the poorest and the most problematic one. And then Salvatore just showed how the developing human development index was much lower in these areas. And of course, socioeconomic distress and territorial imbalances are also reflected in the political choices. The electorate of Rome is divided amongst those living in the city center, in high-income neighborhoods with good quality of services, voting for the left wing, and those living in peripheries, voting for the populist right. We see here the votes for the Lega at the last European elections in 2019. And the share of voters, for example, for Lega increases. We can see it very clearly for the map on the right, increases with the increasing distance from the city center. And this pattern is very clear in Rome for many indicators. So we have a clear center periphery dynamics in the case of Rome. Here we have another map, and we call this, in our blog, we have called this Mappa Rosa, the pink map. On the left, we see the difference between the percentage of graduated women and the percentage of graduated men. And then we have colored with, we were really very brilliant here to give a pink and blue color to these differences. But basically what we see here is that, well, generally in Rome, women graduate more than men. It's a little bit higher, the absolute value. But the pink indicates a higher number of graduated women, and the blue indicates a higher number of graduated men. And what we see is that in the peripheries, we have seen, because Salvatore showed at the beginning, that in the peripheries there are much less graduated people. But amongst these, the women have a higher share. And if you look instead at the labor market on the right, the map on the right, we see that there is only blue. So men prevail. Okay, the employment rate of men it's higher. It's about stands at 55% compared to 42% of women. And indeed, if we look at employment rates in this map, we see how everywhere women are less employed than men. So the female unemployment rate must be of course, we have to look at this feature with extreme care, because it does not only concern the university degrees, but all levels of education. But it is striking, however, that in Rome, once parity has been reached in terms of education, the same opportunity in terms of work is not yet achieved. And we see these conditions similar in other cities, in other metropolitan areas of Italy. Here we have Rome, which is not only the municipality, but also the provincial, what we call now the metropolitan city, so the larger area, compared to Milan, Torino, and Naples. And it's almost always the same picture. So the central area, which is the oldest in terms also of average age of population, the men tend to be more graduated. While in the hinterland, we have the opposite. And this is the gender gap in terms of employment. This is another representation. This is an indicator, the potential economic distress, which is an indicator measured by ISTAT, and it shows here the gap between Milano and Napoli in terms of potential economic distress, and Rome stays somewhere in between. And well, what we're showing here, it's what numbers suggest us, how we can interpret this data. We need to do further investigations, and we need to use this work just as a starting point, basically, to start making questions. So why do some cities perform much better than others? And while some cities change for the better, while others deteriorate. So we need to articulate new ways of and new means of reading and understanding this data, and also trying to understand the urban areas. So what I think we should start discussing is the fact that innovative solutions cannot be sectorial solutions. They must be multidisciplinary solutions, and this is important because inequality is multidimensional. We have seen, studying Rome, that Rome is many cities kept together by complicated and inefficient governance. We have seen at the municipal level that, for example, mortality rates, education levels, employment, income are strongly unequal, and the resulting human development index, it can be very high or very low within a very short distance. At the neighborhood level, we had not time to see all the maps, but we have seen how public services are inefficient and ineffective, especially in peripheral areas, which are these areas characterized by the urban sprawl. And we have seen that these are the areas inhabited by younger people and by young family. And we have seen that there is this gender gap in the labor market. So we have investigated these links among the strong presence also of public housing, for example, low education levels, employment, unemployment for the youth, and so on. There are in Rome at least two cities. So the one city, the central city, able to enjoy the opportunities of work, income, and then life quality, at least until the economic crisis, and at least and the pandemic crisis. And the rest of the city, which seems excluded from the development, and then strongly hit by the actual situation. So we should be able to observe from different angles. We should be able to compare size, scale, form, diachronic and synchronic analysis. We should be able to measure not only by simple indicators, but by more complex measures such as livability, vitality, sense of place, also measures that capture also the perception of quality of life of inhabitants, and we are starting to do something on this direction. And we should be able also to interpret, and this is often tricky to interpret the data. Only in this way, by keeping together these aspects, we should be able to transform the city, to rebuild, to restructure the city through correct policy measures and also urban projects. So thank you very much. I have finished, and I don't know how we have been quick. We can discuss no, I don't know, later now. Just let us know.
Okay, thanks, Keti and Salvatore, for your great talk. I think we can have a short break. Let's say we start, and then in the meantime, you can have a coffee or do whatever you want, but of course, and you can prepare for questions. So please, let's open the floor to a lively, hopefully lively debate. I think there are many issues that deserve discussions about social spatial inequalities. So thanks, and I'll see you in about 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I have my coffee.
Yes.
So we can start.
Yes, I'm here.
Let's see. We have one question from the attendees already. Maybe we can start. I have a question, so I can break the ice. Fabiano Compagnucci is another one, so we can start. Is Keti here with us?
Keti?
Perhaps we can just wait a little bit for her.
Otherwise, Ugo, I can do my question while waiting for Keti.
No, I was just waiting for her in order, in case she wants to answer the question. Let's wait 2 more minutes.
Okay.
If you want, I can try to call. Sorry. As you want, Ugo.
Eccola. Yeah.
Eccoci.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. We can start now the second part of the webinar, which consists of open discussion. I can start. Then we have some people who have raised their hands, and Fabiano Compagnucci and Margherita Grazioli and Andrea Scani. And then there is another question from an external attendee. So we have a good starting point. I want to ask whether you, I know that is in a way an obvious question. We are all obsessed by the pandemic that has been also defined as a syndemic by anthropology, saying that it's a combination of health, sanitary effects and socioeconomic effects. So it really opens up a new Pandora box of studies on the phenomena of social spatial inequalities. This pandemic that we are currently observing and witnessing and experiencing. My question, I know that it's certainly too early in terms of statistical data. We have a lot of data about our own life experiences, but likely there is no availability of official statistical data from the usual agencies providing this kind of information. But what do you expect as experts of scholars studying social spatial inequalities prior to the pandemic? What do you expect? Because my reflection is that the pandemic has been affecting not just in Italy, but all across the world in a way, especially in advanced capitalist economies, has been affected, especially service businesses. Unlike standard conventional economic crisis, such as more recently the debt of 2008, 2009, on which I think your data are based, I mean, as an effect, that usually hit the manufacturing sector and finance, and this crisis has been hitting most severely services business like retail trade and the hospitality sector and mobility sector, which are located in many cases in central districts of urban areas. So one might expect that then, of course, that doesn't mean that if you are an employee of, say, a restaurant in central Rome, that it doesn't imply that you live there. So, I mean, your income being affected by the closure of this restaurant will be reflecting in a peripheral area, not in the center of Rome. But at the same time, I mean, there might be some effect also in central areas, especially in terms of this crisis affecting services businesses. So there might be even not a reversal, because I think your maps show that urban peripheral areas, the outskirts of urban areas, are much more affected by inequalities compared to central districts. In the Italian case, the central districts are more affluent and wealthy than peripheral areas. So I wonder if you have been reflecting on what's going on in terms of reshaping inequalities at the urban level as a consequence, as an effect of the current pandemic crisis and the related socioeconomic effects. Thanks. Maybe we can I will collect another question, then you may answer, and then we collect 2 more questions. Do you think it's reasonable? Yeah. So I think it's Fabiano Compagnucci, who is a colleague, who is a regional economist at our institute. Fabiano, do you want to?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Ugo. Thank you very much, Keti and Salvatore, for your presentation. It was very interesting having an update on Rome, which is a complex city. And I have just a curiosity in order about if you consider the index of social and material vulnerability in order to provide how can I say, description of the city, since I know that this kind of index is provided by Istat since 2017 and is usually used for metropolitan areas, since we can split the metropolitan areas in sub-municipal parts. So I was wondering if you consider this type of index because it considers different levels of analysis. For instance, it considers level of education, the level of unemployment, for instance, the housing condition, but also some, how can I say, aspects related to social deprivation, such as critical family conditions, elderly care, or the need presence. So just a curiosity about this kind of index. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Then you can start answering, and then we will collect other questions. Thanks.
Okay, Salvatore.
As you want, Keti. If you want, I can start, or if you.
Yes, you can. It's up to you.
Okay. Probably, Ugo, I can start with the question on the chat. The first one was about the local or national policymakers make use of your analysis. I start my speech. When I start my speech, I said that when we start with our works, the debate in Rome was far from reality, no? And I think that 5 years later, the debate is still far from reality. This is not good. Okay, sometimes we get in touch with more than policy, with person involved in the policy, but in fact the policy doesn't use data. This is the problem. But the problem is not a problem just in our municipality. Probably is a big problem. So we present our work many times in front of politicians. But in fact, if I have to tell you, if make use of our analysis, I'm not sure. I don't know if Keti later want to tell something about this. You showed many dimensions of spatial inequality. Do you reflect of some of them not only overlap, but have causal relation? Yes, of course, you're right. There is some relation. I present, for example, sorry if I share the wrong map. I shared the map of employment. I discussed the unemployment. For example, if you discuss about the map that I discuss, education and employment, between these two causal, there is causal relation between these maps, these indicators. We didn't produce data. We just use data from official data. So we produce a map, and it's true that when you show many data in maps, sometimes there is some overlap. No problem to say that sometimes it happens. Sure. While you are presenting Urban Promo, there is a panel which administers from Milan, Barcelona, Paris, this sort of city, in my opinion. Okay, it is there. Why not? Sure, I will tell. So, Okay, thank you for information. Now I try to reply to Ugo. Just briefly, I take the ground to the Keti. I think that with pandemia just show the problem of the inequality was in the city, in the metropolitan city like Rome. Before Keti said that in Rome there are at least 2 cities. Usually when we present this work, I like to say that also Platone in the Repubblica said that in every city there are at least 2 cities: the city of the rich and the city of the poor. And usually these cities are fight between them. So the problem of 2 cities is not problem of these days. Was a problem also in the past and also before the pandemia. But pandemia show that something that sometimes not also the scholars doesn't want to look, doesn't want to see. The pandemic show everybody that the inequality is the strongest that as we think. So it's very strong. I'm not sure that about the reshape. If this was your question, just after the pandemic, I'm not completely sure, but I'm sure that we have to rethinking about the idea of the city, because what the pandemic show that the city are draw in the really strange way. If you have the center of the city in Rome, but it's not just in Rome, where we have just could be a problem, no? This was the pandemic show. So I think that we have to rethinking about the idea of the city. I don't know, probably I can get the ground to the Keti if I don't know if I missed some question.
Well, I just take the chance to talk about this question by Ugo. Well, and I also take the opportunity to talk about missing data in our work, but we of course this does not depend on us. Well, if we want to measure the effect of the pandemic, we have to be able to analyze the economic space of city. And we have been trying to analyze the social space through data from the ISTAT and from the different sources, but we could not find data at this level of disaggregation on economic activities and on the economic space. And the feeling, of course, is that this pandemic is hitting hard the city center and the peripheral areas which are already basically poor. And the city center was losing resident population because people living in the city center prefer to transform their apartments in Airbnb or whatever, and moving away from the city center in a more affordable areas, economically affordable areas. So now this pandemic is totally going to change this. And also the economic activity. So what is the feeling for the moment is that the areas that are performing, that are more resilient, are these historical peripheries. So these very densely built up popular neighborhoods full of small shops and small economic activities, small services, which are neighborhood services. So these are the idea, the feeling is that these areas are suffering a little bit less if compared, is a sort of ciambella, let's say, around the historical center. And then there is another ciambella bigger in the sprawl area, which is already, which has suffered, and it's still, it will continue to suffer. So this is a little bit the idea, the hypothesis, but we have to validate this with data. And I can assure you that being after the data, it's really difficult. It's really hard. Well, the question from Fabiano, if I may share the screen, perhaps I can show you this map. Perhaps you are referring to this indice di disagio sociale.
I'm not sure it was the same indicator. Is the same indicator?
Well, perhaps is that, we have two indexes here which were not elaborated by us. It's they are by Istat or Comune di Roma, the potential distress, and then the social distress. So we have been looking at these indexes, and we have also been looking at some sub-indicators which were used to create these indexes, like the NEET, and then not completing the middle school. So we have different maps, different indicators in our work, not only the ones that we showed earlier. And they more or less all show this divide, this center-periphery divide, which is really clear. So in the case of Rome, which is a very highly monocentric city with a strong city center and a large and rarefied periphery, this question of social marginality is still linked to the distance from the center. So what we all know that this question of marginality is no more, this vision is somehow old, but in the case of Rome, due to the specific physical characteristics of the city, we have this duality, and all indicators show this this problem of Rome. So in the case of Rome, physical distance from the center is also a social distance.
Okay, thank you for your answers. I think we have questions from Margherita Grazioli, who co-organized this event. Margherita, she's a postdoc researcher at our institute. She's a human geographer and urban scholar. And then a question from Andrea Ascani, who is also member of our institute. He's an economic geographer and regional economist. So please, Margherita, go ahead.
Thank you, Ugo. And first of all, I'd like to thank Keti and Salvatore for this presentation. I think it's really fascinating how you put maps to the use of complex bits of analysis. So I think it's a quite fascinating, and we might also say heterodox approach in a way to, let's say, a hard understanding of geography as well. So I would like to start exactly from this kind of methodological aspect, because we have taught this webinar series first and foremost for our PhD students. So I would like to ask a question that I think would be very useful also for them, which would be, how have you decided to team up and join forces among scholars from different fields and who had different expertises, and decided to carry out this type of work. So this would be probably the first thing. And the second one is more to relates more to the map instrument itself, because your maps are really fascinating, and they give like a very precise snapshots of some phenomena also in your book. And you use a lot the municipality or the neighborhood parameter, let's say, to establish colors and to show differences among different areas. At the same time, I was also wondering if you found difficult sometimes to operate, to use this kind of criteria, so to use, let's say, finite administrative boundaries to speak about a city that, as Keti and Salvatore, you have mentioned many times, is sprawling, very characterized by very high degrees of mobility. So people that administratively speaking live in a place, but probably spend the rest of their day in other areas, and where also the perception and relation of the city center is changing a lot. One of the examples I think that we can mention, but there are many neighborhoods like Centocelle or Primavalle that are characterized by high volumes of public housing, and the indicators you mentioned, let's say, that characterize many areas that used to be considered peripherals, nowadays can be considered city centers. And when we think about Rome's periphery, we might think of those suburbs and very small villages that basically do not have any line of interruption with the city. If we may think, for instance, on the Prenestina, you have a series of places, Colle Prenestino and whatnot, that are not separate from the city at all, rather than Guidonia, Tivoli. So I was just wondering, how have you managed to, let's say, balance this aspect of sprawling a very liquid, fluid urban fabric with the necessity to make something visible, relatable on the map tool? Thank you.
Salvatore, do you want to answer to the first question?
Yeah, then we can have the other question from Andreas. Thanks.
Okay.
The team.
No. Thank you, Margherita. First of all, for the question. When I started to present our work, I said, was not for me was really important to stress that first of all, we are not just colleagues, but we are also friends with passion of Rome. So yes, of course, I think that it was really useful to have a different background, because my background is I'm a development economist, historian, and territorial economist, and I think it was useful also not just to start, but just to continue our work, because sometimes when you start something, it's not difficult to start to work together. Sometimes it's to continue to work with the same person, no? And now in February with Keti and Federico, we are 5 years, so it's a long time. I don't know, it's not easy. I told when I start to explain, it's not easy to explain for me this. I think that to study Rome for us is not just part of our work. I think that this is a part of our life, because we live in our city completely. We part of everything. So I think, but just I don't know. I don't know if I was completely my answer about your question. If you have something more, don't worry. You can ask about this. You say you ask also about we choose a suburb. I want to say just one thing more about this. We choose suburb for two reasons. The first one we explained in the presentation was a methodological issue. Rome is too big. Rome is impossible to explain as an unicum. So there is a methodological issue. But there is also another issue that is not a methodological issue. It's exactly what you said in the last part of your answers. When you live in Rome, but it's the same when you live in Milan, in Naples, it's true. Your city is Milan, is Naples, but you are first then Milan or Naples, you live in your suburb. Suburb is a part of your life. If you start to speak about a suburb, it's easier for the people that have to read your book or have to hear your history. It's easier to follow your history. I don't know if it's easy to understand what I want to say. But so there is a methodological issue, but there is also another. This is not just a methodological issue, because when I present, we present our map not just in academic room. We present our map. I'm not sure, but if we had 50 presentation around Rome in every suburb. You can imagine you arrive with the map of unemployment, with the right map, I hope so, not with the wrong like today, with the right map of unemployment. And I speak about the rate of unemployment in Prenestino. Probably the person that's just in the front of you is not just think about 20% or 50%. The person that is in front of you start to think about the person is unemployment. In that moment is the son, is the sister, is the brothers, is the dad. No? So it's a method just to increase the empathy. I don't know. Probably it's possible to see also in English empathy for our work. I don't know. I'm not sure, but probably now I give the ground to Keti if you want to say something more about this.
Yes, I just want to. Well, I'm going to answer to this question, but I want to apologize because I have a problem with my little daughter, which is feeling, it has some problems, so she was feeling bad. So I will leave you shortly, but I wanted to answer to the question by Margherita. Well, we have been working on zone urbanistiche because we have this is the smallest aggregation level for which we can get some data. And we are trying, of course, to do the best we can with representation of indexes. It's not easy. These areas represent more or less the neighborhoods in the city center, but when they were defined many years ago, when the outskirts were less urbanized than now, and they're very large, especially for the peripheral areas. So if we take, for example, one urbanistic zone, like let's say like Torre Angela, we know that we have there, we have public housing, Torre Angela, we have private housing, well-to-do like Torre Gaia, and we have also informal neighborhoods. And we have also not built up areas. So we have many different conditions, situations within these areas. And it's very difficult to have data at this level of disaggregation. We have been doing some work on this. For example, we have shown how in areas with high concentration of public housing, the indexes are even worse, even lower if with respect to the average, to the zona urbanistica average. So, for example, the education level, or other indexes that we have been treating. It's always this problem of data availability. We know that the city administrative limits are arbitrary limits, but yes, we have to think of also other ways of mapping phenomena, and also by we are also, for example, doing a lot of interviews and geolocating interviews, and also participle mapping are new tools that can be developed and used for mapping perceptions, for example, and comparing what is measured by numbers and what is perceived by people. So here it's a great new field of research.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Keti. If you want to go, don't worry, I can stay.
Okay, no, sorry, I'm just have to see what's going on because okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Keti, for joining us in this webinar. Thanks. Okay, 2 more questions. Perhaps we can collect them together. One is by Andreas Cani, and just presented, who is member of our institute, is an economic geographer and regional economist, and one by Sara Karamaski, who is a postdoc researcher at JSSI in urban studies and planning. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much again for the presentation. I think you did a great job in convincing us that inequalities are very much a multidimensional phenomenon. So I had actually a couple of questions. So first of all, I could connect just with a bit delay. So maybe you said this and I missed it. If that's the case, don't consider my questions. So the first one is in terms of the aims of this exercise. So I was wondering whether you're trying to look at these inequalities with a positive approach or for instance, a normative approach. So are you trying to describe a phenomenon and the linkages that motivate it, the determinants of it, or you're trying to assess its fairness, or whether it is bad or it is good that we have this type of spatial patterns, or you're trying to do both things at the same time. But in any of these cases, I was wondering whether, do you think in interpreting all the various snapshots, there's a sort of conceptual guidance that we can use to navigate the various maps? And in terms of the data, I was also wondering, but again, maybe I missed it, whether you attach any importance to inequalities in terms of cost of living. I think that's a quite fundamental thing. Cost of living in Rome in the center are completely different from another place, even if it's just a couple of kilometers away. And this connects to housing in terms of prices, in terms of tenure of the land, whether people own a place or rent a place. And I think considering some of these things can also give some intuition about certain results in the maps. For instance, I'm not surprised at all that families with kids are farther away from the center, because to afford an additional room, you had to spend a lot of money in the center, and it's way cheaper somewhere else. Very last point instead is about the geographical scale, because you show 2 or 3 different geographical scale: the inner city, the let's say urban area, but also the province, which is called metropolitan area just for mostly administrative purposes, I guess. And in this latter sense, I would like to ask, what is the intuition that we have to grasp here. So what do we learn from comparing the countryside fundamentally, or there are entire lakes in the province or entire forests, and there are other entire cities like Civitavecchia. So what do we learn from that? And if you do that, does it make sense to consider other like amenities, like natural amenities? People might be moving there because of the coastline or because of, again, amenities that you are not considering so far.
Thank you very much.
Grazie, Andrea. Yeah, perhaps because Andrea's question is very rich, and so perhaps you can reply to him, and then we hear from Sarah.
Okay, I start with the second question because in our book and also in our blog, we have a map about the price of the house. Is a map that shows also the difference between 2008 and 2018, so before the crisis, the big crisis, and in the end of the big crisis. I think it's a very interesting map. Firstly, because help to answer your questions. It's true that in the center, the price of the house is higher, so this is a motivation for the family to go in the periphery. But also because, especially in periphery, the price of the house decrease more than in the center of the Rome. So it's, I think it's there is a material to work more about this. So, but you can find a map about this on the blog. I'm not sure about the blog, but sure that there is in the book. There is a map in the book that shows the difference between price in 2008 and 2018. About the approach, I told when we start to study Rome with all these dimension, the first reason was that the debate, in political debate, academic debate, was just not on the main problem of the city in that moment. The discussion was just about competitivity or so more question, but not inequality. And we think that the main problem in Rome now, the main problem is inequality. And it's not inequality in wealth and income. The main problem is inequality in opportunities. So we collect all data we can find just to show that the main problem is inequality in opportunity. This was the main aim of our work, because I told it's the third time probably that I said it is today. The debate at that time was far to speak about the real problem of the city. If you want to describe, see, is a positive or normative approach, of course, but I repeat, it was just an attempt to describe the reality of the city, not more. About the metropolitan area, not just in Rome, but also in Milan and in Naples and Turin, more complicated, but sure in Milan and Naples, it's impossible to understand what's happening in the city if you don't have a look what's happening in the metropolitan area, because especially the periphery and the 120 municipality of metropolitan area in Rome, sometimes there are the same. If you look in the map I show, and also the same in the map I show Keti, for example, in the gender gap map, you can say that the performance is quite similar in the periphery and in the metropolitan area. Okay, probably in in Naples there is some difference, but usually it's important to show what's happening in the metropolitan area to better understand what's happening also in the periphery, because many times the processes are quite similar. I think this was so I think probably it's important to study more for what is possible about all the metropolitan area. I hope it was I answered your question, Andrea.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Salvatore. Then Sara Karamaschi, please.
Thank you, Salvatore, for this presentation. I just want to say that your maps offer a very unique, detailed close-up of how inequalities manifest in certain cities in Italy. So I think it's important to start analyzing these issues. I have actually a couple of questions. One is more about the methodology. The other one is more curiosity, let's say. I start with the curiosity. Have you considered the spatial transformation that affected certain neighborhoods or certain parts of these cities, and trying to understand these impacts on inequalities? I'm thinking about structural changes in certain areas of Rome, of Turin, of Naples that might have or should have clear evidences and clear impacts on inequalities, especially, as you said, inequalities in the opportunity of certain populations in doing something, or in like also buying a house or using certain services. So this is about, let's say, my curiosity. The other one is about the methodology. Since we have some PhD students here, I was wondering if you can say something more about the limitations of this kind of analysis. Because as Keti said before, usually this kind of mapping open some kind of new understandings that needs more in-depth details and in-depth analysis, such as interviews, participant observation. So if you can say something more, just for the clarity.
Sorry, Sarah, probably for my problem, I lost some part of your question. Can you repeat just last minute? Sorry.
The last question, okay. If you can say something more about the limitations of this kind of mapping. Actually, Keti said something before, but just to clarify for students, how this kind of mapping might open new and different types of research on the city.
Yeah, I can start from a limitation because, as Keti said, the main problem is to availability of data, no? Because main part of our data are from census of 2011, no? From Istat. So is data are old, not all, fortunately, but many data are data that 10 years. So this is the main problem, and the second problem is not easy to have availability of in time series, for example, no. If I have to speak about to the PhD students, in 5 years, we publish a lot of map, but just one paper on top journal, just one journal is in fascia, I can say, because it's not easy to produce a paper that use the instruments for, this is the main problem. Okay. We have some work in progress. We hope to have also, but of course, we don't have many data. In part, it is also to reply your curiosity. No, it's not easy. Okay, we would like to study also the transformation, but the main problem is to have data. We start to have also some qualitative data. So we need the time, of course, it's not easy. It's not easy. I think that we need to ask the policymakers to produce data. We need to make lobbyists, all of academics, to produce data, and we can work on this data. Because now I think that it's very important to work at this territorial level, because especially in Rome, where the municipality are really strange. It's not just problem of they are very big, 300,000 person. There is also the problem that are strange, because in Rome, the municipi was designed in the 70s from political party, and the only reason of the municipi was that there was a center where they vote in one part. It was the periphery where they vote in another part. There is not a social or economic idea to design municipality in the 70s. So if you want to try to understand, you need to have a look at territorial level like zone urbanistiche. But the problem and the limit, as you point out rightly, is to have enough data. Because if you don't have enough data, now especially I can speak especially to the young scholar. No, if you don't have enough data, you can present a map. You can show descriptive result. Okay, you can make something, because we made something, of course, what was possible, but it's not easy, no? It's not easy to check the causality, for example. It's not easy to check many problems that that every of us know very well. So there are many limits in our work. This is the problem. There are many potentiality, but also many limits in our work. It's true. I completely agree about this.
Thank you, Salvatore, for your generosity. We are really making so many questions and dissecting your research findings. And I think we have one more from the floor, Giulia Sonzogno, who is a PhD student in our program. Please, Giulia.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon, and thank you for the presentation. And I was a year student in Roma 3. And yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you here. And I don't have
to have my students in PhD.
No, in the master degree.
Master degree.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so I already knew the maps and this work. And I don't have a real question, but just a curiosity. I live in Rome, and I talk with Nonna Roma, an association that is working for to provide foods and essential things to people in Rome. And these guys told me that the situation is changing. They are starting to provide this kind of packages, essential packages, in areas that before didn't needed this kind of help. And so my curiosity is, are you working on a study or something like that to map the change in the needs and in the poverty and in Rome? Because he told me that he started to come to the center to provide this kind of food, a package to families, and before it was only a need for in periphery. And so
thanks for your question, Giulia. First of all, because I can say the one thing that sometimes I forgot to say, that periphery in Rome, and not just in Rome, is not just a problem. Periphery is also many other things, like non-aroma that you recall. There is a lot of person that work for the other. There is association, mutualism, that entrepreneurship. So there is a lot of, there is a community. In periphery, there is a community is very strong. And you recall the work of Non-Aroma. Non-Aroma is just an example of the many associazioni that work for the poor in the periphery. And I think it's very important to remind this, because periphery is not just problem, but there are also many aspects that are not so strong in other parts of the city. Now, in not paper, in something that we wrote for so some notes that we wrote recently, we try to define Roma. We try to divide Roma in 7 cities. But the city of the rich, the city of the poor, the city of the sea, Ostia, the city of the inequality, the Case Popolari. But there is another city that is not possible to see. Is exactly the city that you recall in your question. It's an invisible city. It's the city, the person there are in the city, but usually it's not possible to see. We had a map, 29. I don't know if you see in the blog. I'm not sure if 29 to 28. Sometimes I make a mistake. We had a map that we start to try to have some data about this part of the city. I think that this is one work we have to do in the future, because I completely agree with you. We have to try to study what's happened in periphery, the people that come in the center to find food or to find something to live every day. We made something, but we work on this in these days. I think. Thank you for the question, for the opportunity to speak about this problem that usually is not easy to point out in the map.
Thanks, Salvatore. Giulia, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Salvatore. And my other curiosity was about mapping also the people that are now starting to struggle in the center, and before were in a good condition, and now with COVID-19 are starting to struggle. And so I think that it's really
If you want to, I can tell you just more. We try to have an agreement with Caritas, because in Caritas they had some questionnaire, they collect data about this. So we start to try to work. But the main problem, anytime that I have the opportunity to speak in the front of the person, I have a responsibility in the public policy, I said we need an office that produce data on that we can work, because now in this moment, usually in the Istat or all the institution that produce data usually produce data at not municipality, but at commune level. I don't know, the municipal data just about Rome, not more, not about municipi, not more about zone urbanistica. Okay, you are come back with us. Do you want to say something about you heard the question of Julia? The difficulties to map. Julia, can you repeat to Keti please? Of course. Sorry.
Good afternoon, Keti. And I asked before that now there are just a curiosity, not a real question, that COVID-19 is changing pattern of needs in Rome, and there is a lot of data and problems that is difficult to map, and also in the center now, and the poverty and the people that needs essential things, and people that come in the center and something like that during COVID-19. So my question was if you are going to map somehow, or to collect data, or to study this pattern. Thank you.
Yes. Well, yeah, we basically would like to map many things. The problem is that, as Salvatore said, we are, until now, we have been using data produced by others. We are not data producers, so we basically map already existing data. But yes, these are aspects that we would like to investigate. For the moment, what we have been doing, it's what you see in our blog, the mapparoma.info. So for the moment, this is yes, we would like to start also mapping this kind of issues, but for the moment we are basically we have done until what we have seen. So
thank you for your answers and your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Keti, and thanks, Salvatore. I think there is a lot to observe and to investigate about social and spatial inequalities in today's really hard times that we are living in. So thanks for giving us this view on existing urban inequalities. So thanks to all attendees for having been here for 2 hours almost. And so thanks to everyone, and bye-bye, and see you for next seminar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Salvatore. Thank you, Keti.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao Salvatore, grazie.
Ciao, we'll be in touch.
Grazie.
Grazie
mille.
Ancora.
Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao Margherita, a presto allora.
A presto, ciao.
Ciao, grazie.
Ciao.